is the webinar for addressing your winter blues happening this November. So hello, once again, my name is Martha. I am a registered social worker, psychotherapist, providing psychotherapy services to adults at Shift Collab. I connect with folks who are experiencing low mood, anxiety, concerns around self-esteem, and general well-being. I approach conversations in a casual manner, being able to meet the individual where they are at. So as we get into the webinar, I will be using the acronym SAD, which stands for Seasonal Affective Disorder. So what is seasonal affective disorder? Well, it could be defined as or named as the winter blues. It is the differences in mood experienced around seasonal changes, especially around fall to winter. So once again, wanting to present this discussion ahead of winter coming into December. So noticeable changes in mental and physical states approaching winter where we see less sunlight are also parts that define what seasonal affective disorder is. And one piece to make note of in terms of, well, what makes SAD or the winter blues different than low mood one may be experienced throughout the year? Well, definitely around the seasonal change and its impact into daily living is part of potential differences that you may see between being affected by SAD versus something like a chronic depression or low mood. What are the signs and symptoms of SAD or the winter blues? Well, some signs and symptoms may be sleepiness, drowsiness during the daytime, losing interest in enjoyable activities, mood changes, especially around anger and irritability that might be more prominent, might be more physically seen. You might, or someone might experience fatigue, concentration loss, or decreased thinking capacity. And some of these pieces are also connected to the circadian rhythm in terms of that ability for our body to respond, especially during these seasonal changes. Mental well-being. One piece to make note of is that some populations may be at higher risk to developing SAD, such as women and young persons. However, that's not to say that we might not all be affected by the season change, especially time change, again, given the weekend. But if you fall under these populations, it's something to make note of. At the same time, those with family members impacted by SAD or low mood may be at risk. Decreased sunlight exposure and shortened days have an impact on chemical changes in the brain. Again, considering that circadian rhythm that might be within our body or that is within our body is definitely pieces that are affected by that seasonal change. Treatment may include boosting what I like to call feel-good routines, and I'll talk a little bit about what those look like for me specifically, regular sleep schedule and nutritional changes or talk therapy. I'll also touch base upon nutritional changes and nourishment that may be able to be boosted during those winter months. Physical wellness. Physical activity supports movement and well-being, especially during the daytime in the winter. We've before gone or done mental health walks. So that's something definitely to bring back into the winter months. Indoor exercise, or what I like to call a dance break. For me, sometimes it's just moving up, getting out of the computer chair and really allowing myself to feel some physical relief. A big part of my routine for the last 4 years has been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is a martial art. It is very physical martial arts. So that has done lots of wonders for my own physical and well-being, and definitely something that I like to partake in, especially in those winter months. Another piece that would be helpful is light therapy. which mimics sunlight indoors, which could be used as a tool during those winter months. And another piece to make note of is seeking sunlight during daytime. For example, indoors by windows, which I just did about 1 or 2 hours ago, just sitting by a window and experiencing some of that sunlight really helped to boost my mood. And think golden hour, those precious moments of sunlight that could really help us in those moments as it's usually cold out. The sunlight can be quite a big help. Nutritional wellness. This is the part of that I wanted to mention in terms of how is it that you can increase or boost the nourishment during those winter months. Definitely take into consideration that some folks might be already on top of these pieces. For me, definitely it's something that I want to boost and make note of as we go into those winter months. So a well-balanced nourishment and nutrition for winter may include high fiber foods for gut health, such as sweet potatoes, avocados, as well as high in magnesium foods and snacks, which may include beans, leafy greens, vegetables, or dark chocolate. I think for many, for me, definitely that would be a big mood boost that I'll tap into to nourish not only my body, but my soul as well. So a little bit of pieces to make note of there, as well as vitamin D, which is found in dairy or fortified non-dairy alternatives such as soy milk, oat, or almond milk. So these are some both dairy and non-dairy alternatives that you can definitely boost during those months to really help the body bounce back and last throughout the winter, as well as high vitamin D sources, including cow's milk, salmon, eggs, or mushrooms. And one piece to make note of is hydration is key. And here I wrote down water for you and your plant friends. For me, my plants are another source of wellness, of activity, of a bit of mindfulness when I'm really tending to my plants. So these are some points, definitely not all encompassing points, but some to make note of as you look to boost that nutritional wellness during those winter seasons or the winter season. And wanting to talk about, well, how is it that you can keep up with your routine? And this is a conversation that I like to have with folks in terms of making these pieces manageable, right? We have a few months of winter and we want to make sure that we're doing what we can to allow ourselves to feel well mentally, physically, otherwise. And again, wanting to present this discussion ahead of time to build those good habits. So some points to make note of is to be kind, be patient, and build those good habits, especially during the winter months. And like I said earlier, one big routine for me is my physical activity. And for me, that's again, training jujitsu throughout the year, whether it's summer, winter, especially in the winter when it's really cold out and I might not want to get out of bed. I really have to push myself to do that, right? At the same time, and another point here is that rest is productive, really understanding what is within your capacity to do. Other pieces to make note of is understanding how negative thinking patterns build a cycle of low mood, impacting mental and physical health. For similar reason, if I'm thinking that it's too cold, I don't want to go out, and I stay in and I don't train at my gym, I'll probably not feel the greatest versus pushing myself a little bit to go out and train and getting those physical benefits to the physical activity. And a big piece is similarly tending to activities that support you during those cold days and nights. for example, hobbies, those interests in spending time with loved ones. For me, I shared two hobbies or interests of mine that I really enjoy. It's training at the gym, tending to my plants, and those offer me a capacity and ability to do things that I enjoy, especially during those times when I'm likely to be inside indoors because of winter. And again, can't stress enough that rest is productive. We lead busy lives, and we definitely want to make note of that rest is important, that rest is productive, and allowing yourself permission to rest, and definitely being kind and patient really helps with those pieces. And troubleshooting with professionals is important as well, right? If some of these pieces are hard to come by, or I do like doing that troubleshooting with professionals, whether it's friends as well, whether it's your support network. I'm a big proponent on using, that support system as coping. So understanding that we are here to help as supportive persons, therapists, other roles that we might fall into, that we are also humans too, that we're able to experience some of these pieces as well. And we do our very best to tend to those physical and mental well-being. And I really like this idea of having a cheerleader in your corner is helpful for me when I'm not able to tend to these pieces on my own. It's usually gathering, looking for that support of friends, family member, loved ones to really help make sure that I'm being taken care of, but I'm also taking care of myself. So that's a very brief insight into SAD and the winter blues. So this is some of the pieces that you can make note of to really help support mental well-being. And of course, give us a shout, if you need that support, if you need some of that guidance, some of that external perspective, that you're more than welcome to connect with the team at Shift Collab to really help approach these conversations. So once again, really wanting to recommend some of these pieces as we go into the winter season, which from now would be within a few weeks' time. Okay. I also wanted to touch base or direct folks to a resource that I usually recommend, which is the Center for Clinical Interventions. Specifically, this is around depression, but I did find this one-page sheet, which it's a little bit of a cheat sheet in terms of what are the activities, exercises, relaxation, self-care, social support goals that could be noted down in those winter months. So these are some, or this is a resource that you can certainly tap into for expanding those thoughts, those ideas around what activities there are, what you can do, what you can tap into during the winter season. Okay, I also wanted to make some time for questions, clarifying any pieces. I'm going to take a peek into the chat over here. Okay. I have one question. Is caffeine nutritious? I think that would be depending on some pieces. I know for folks that attend the gym, right, really getting that caffeine, that boost of energy is helpful. So I think it depends. I definitely am a coffee drinker myself, so that definitely helps boost my own mood. But some of the nutritious resources I shared were recommended by a dietitian friend of mine. So any specific questions around nourishment, it would be helpful to look for those resources or supports that have that understanding, that come from that perspective of nutrition or diet. But I'm wondering if there are any other questions to make note of. Okay. Good question. Tips to get up in the morning and exercise on those really cold days. Yeah, so a big piece that I work from is making small steps, right? We're not looking for these huge grand gestures, especially during the winter months where it might be really hard to get up. So I make it a habit to make my bed, right? And that sounds simple, but for me, it really helps my mindset to reset for the day, to get up and really being able to go through my activities of daily living, whether that's work, whether that's gym, right? Again, a big piece that I'm working on now is my own accountability to really going to the gym and exercising, right? But again, exercise doesn't have to be getting your gym bag, getting everything ready, going to the gym. It could be stretching, jumping jacks, it could be dancing, it could be yoga, right? And some of these pieces are things that you can do within your own comfort of your home. So again, wanting to change the perspective that we're looking for small adjustments to make note of. And the hope is that as you build that routine, that they'll become a little bit easier to tend to, especially on those very cold mornings. Any other questions to make note of?
I think Isaiah just had one more in the chat regarding mood lights and sun lamps.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So definitely that's, a bit of a hack, if you will, to really help build or help continue to maintain that circadian rhythm, right? Because we're losing sunlight. If I look out the window right now, I'm sure it's quite dark versus in the summer where we might be out at 7, 8, 9 p.m. and there still be some daylight. So it's a little bit of a tool to use that can be used to really help boost that cycle, that energy during the winter where we're known to have less sunlight. And again, on a lunch break, if that's doable, going out for a mental health walk. For me, it's walking the pets and really being able to get that little bit of sunlight where I can. Any other questions? I seem to have lost the function to see the chat. So Danielle, let me know if there's any other questions that I might not be aware of.
Yeah, no problem. I think that was the last one there, unless folks have any last lingering questions about anything. Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And thank you, Martha.
Thank you. So once again, really reiterating that point that we're looking for small, obtainable tools to use, coping skills, right? Especially as we approach the winter, where we might be a little bit more sensitive to things like mood, our energy levels, again, with sunlight being limited. So feel free to connect as you wish for any additional ideas or that idea of troubleshooting, right? With what is it that you can do during those winter months to really help sustain yourself, to look at things from a holistic perspective, which is why I definitely wanted to bring in part of that nourishment and that well-being piece. So along with the physical, mental health, but also the nourishment piece and how is it that we can keep ourselves in good health holistically.
Wonderful. Someone just mentioned they especially appreciate the phrase to push to go work out. This is the hardest bit for them.
Definitely. Again, we're human too, and I definitely struggle with that piece. And it's how is it that I can make that mental note to keep myself accountable? So what I'm doing now is connecting with friends who have similar goals as I do, who can support, who can keep me accountable, who can really be that boost of energy to say, hey, did you work out? Did you move? Did you do something for yourself? And otherly, let folks know after a hard conversation, what is it that you can do for yourself to tend to yourself? All right. So thank you, folks, for coming and joining this evening. I hope this offers a chance to understand a little bit of the winter blues, its effects, what is it that you can do to cope, to manage during those cold Canadian winters. How is it that, again, you can keep up the well-being routines, could be just moving and doing a little bit of a dance break. Sunday night, I'm usually playing a record on my vinyl player and moving a little bit. So for me, that's a habit that I've built in my mind to really help boost my own mood.